There we go. All right. We're live. Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing this evening? Welcome back. Welcome back to Eric MD. I'm your host, Eric, MD. Nice to have you back. Hope you all are enjoying these videos and getting something out of them. For those of you who are new, haven't seen this before, we break down, go over popular topics in healthcare and medicine so that you can better understand them because it's getting a little crazy out there. People talking with big words, don't know if the information you're getting is legit. So we're going to go over everything and make it so you can understand. It empowers you to ask good questions of clinicians, of politicians, of everybody. You don't have to know everything about everything. You just have to know the basics to help you understand and ask good questions, okay? Going to wait here just a minute for people to get logged in. I'm going to get myself pulled up here so I can follow with questions. That's the best part about this also. Please ask questions so I can follow along. I'll answer as much as I can. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, before we get to the diabetes stuff, I hope everyone liked the COVID testing last week. Got a lot of good feedback from it. I know a lot of people actually used it, which is awesome. The testing gets a little wild because there's so many out there. There's a new one coming out that we kind of hinted at, one that tests your saliva, so look for that one. This is also reaching thousands of people, which I think is awesome. So please keep sharing. We have several people that have liked the page so they get the updates, but a lot of people are getting this that, flash in front of them on Facebook. So if you think there's someone or some people that would benefit, please share, get them to like it so they can get updates and suggest some topics. Okay, so last we did some COVID, we did some coronavirus. This week we're switching gears a little bit. We're going to talk about diabetes. Now, not the sexiest topic out there, I get it, but it's a huge issue, and either you have it or you know someone that has it. And frankly, as a physician, it kind of makes me sad when people don't understand their condition, they slack on their treatments. Gone are the days of paternalistic, do what I say because I said so. We want you to understand. And so when you don't understand diabetes, it's easy to kind of slack off on what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to monitor it. So if this is you or you know somebody who just doesn't like checking the sugar or doesn't take their insulin, please let them watch this. Hopefully it'll give you a little insight. Okay. Also, conflicting info on the interwebs is a big deal. So we're going to clarify a lot of that stuff. A lot of this is, again, medical fact. We've known this stuff a long time. Nothing too earth-shattering, just the basics of the disease. Okay? All right, let's get into it. I see a bunch of people watching. Hey, how's everybody going? Everyone's saying hi already. Hi, Debbie Cohen Jennings. Can neuropathy be reversed? We're going to talk about that. Don't worry. Hi again, Deidre and Linda. CGMs. We're going to go over that too. Thanks for writing those in. Here we go. Numbers. Yeah, okay. People are talking about CGMs. We'll get into that. First of all, let's get even more basic. So diabetes. If I said diabetes and you thought sugars, kinda. If you thought insulin, you're going on the right track. So a little bit about the physiology, or what that means is how your body works. Okay, you eat stuff, right? This is super basic. You're going to eat food. It's broken down into, tiny little fats. Proteins are broken down into little things called amino acids. Carbs and sugars are broken down into sugars. That needs to be taken somewhere to be used. You're not just going to eat and that turkey sandwich just floats around your bloodstream. It's broken down and it's taken to where it's needed. So for sugars especially, that's where insulin comes into play. Everyone's kind of heard about insulin, and that's a carrier protein. It latches onto the insulin and it brings it to where it's needed. It's needed in the liver, the brain, your fat cells, muscles, etc. So sugar is essentially, it is good for you. It's what powers a lot of your body, and insulin's what takes it there. Your pancreas is this weird kind of upside down Tetris L-shaped organ that's an insulin factory, right? So that's what the pancreas is and what insulin is. Diabetes, by definition, is the insulin ain't working, right? That's what it boils down to. You don't make enough of it, or you can't use it. So for those of you who are in a medicine or know a little bit about this, don't yell at me. I'm going to grossly oversimplify this, but that's the idea. Type 1 and type 2 diabetes, okay? This is type 1 diabetes in a sentence. Usually younger onset, and the pancreas just doesn't make enough of it. You just don't got it, okay? I know there's a lot more to it, but that's the essence of it. Type 2 diabetes, usually older onset, and the pancreas can't keep up. You're working it too hard, and it's not keeping up. Your body's not using it well. The pancreas tries to make more insulin, and it just gets tired, just gets pooped out. Okay, so as you can imagine, if your pancreas isn't working well, doesn't work, or it's not keeping up, the blood sugar level rises. So you're eating all this food, you love the cakes and sugar and cookies. The sugar level in your bloodstream rises, and there's not enough insulin to take care of it, right? So what does this mean? Well, you may have some symptoms. What are some symptoms of diabetes? Maybe you start peeing a little bit more. Okay, it's a chemistry problem that we're not going to go into. It's an osmotic problem for those of you who are scientists. You might get thirsty. You might gain weight. You might lose weight, interestingly. But the real dangerous part is a lot of time you can't tell. The fancy word is asymptomatic. A is without, so without symptoms, and that's what makes diabetes so dangerous. So why does this all matter? So you have all this sugar, you have pieces of cookie floating around in your bloodstream. Why does that matter? What I tell patients, and the easiest way to think about this, is diabetes is actually a disease of blood vessels. Forget about sugar for a minute. The problems that arise with diabetes have to do with the bloodstream. The piping, the tubing, the plumbing of your body malfunctions. Okay, that's the key, is damage to your blood vessels. Essentially, again, this is an oversimplification, but the sugar kind of makes your blood a little slushy, a little sludgy, and it clogs your blood vessels, makes them leak. It makes organs think that they need more blood. They make more blood vessels, which they're not supposed to. You have all the blood vessels you need, so if one of your organs isn't getting enough because you get too much sugar blocking the way, it's going to ask for more. Well, unfortunately, your body has hired really bad contractors, and it makes new blood vessels, but they suck, and they leak. So leaking blood vessels is swelling and bleeding. So you get bleeding in places you don't want it, okay? So that's what diabetes complications are. There are leaking blood vessels and issues from lack of blood flow. What's another word for lack of blood flow that you may have heard of that maybe affects your brain? A stroke, right? You're not having strokes all over your body, but think about it. If you're not getting blood flow to organs that need it, you're depriving them of essential nutrients, right? So let's go kind of down that rabbit hole and talk about complications. So what does it mean? Well, let's start with eyes. Okay, that's kind of my territory, so it's easy for me. Your eye is a tiny little organ, right? Sitting right here in your skull. Your eye has tiny little structures in it. As such, they have tiny little blood vessels. If your A1C is 12, and we'll go over A1C in a minute, it means your blood sugar is just way too high, and your eye feels that it's starved for blood. It's just not getting enough blood flow. It gets sick, and it's like, hey man, I need more blood. So your body's like, cool. So it sends in these horrible contractors, and they make new blood vessels, but they're really bad. They got them, off of Craigslist, and they make horrible new blood vessels, and they leak. So, voila, you now have bleeding in your eye, and that's what causes loss of vision. That can cause tons of other complications and essentially blindness. It can cause your retina to detach, tons of other things just by horrible new blood vessels. Now, same thing goes for other organs. Your kidneys, same issue. New blood vessels makes the kidneys kind of clog and not go very well. If your kidneys are shot, you can't filter your bloodstream. You have to go on something called dialysis, which is essentially artificial kidneys. The big one is nerves, and we're going to go to one of those questions about neuropathy. Nerves are very interesting. Nerves are the connection between things in your body, right? It's how you feel, it's how you move, it's a connection, it's a wire. Well, just like everything else, it requires blood supply. It's not free. So if you have this blood supply that's really bad, then it's affecting the nerves. Now, what's the farthest from your brain? Your brain's a central nerve. And so if you go all the way down, there's really sensitive parts of your body, your fingers and your toes, right? And your foot have a very high concentration of nerves that require a lot of blood, and they're far away. So if your sugars are too high and there's a lack of blood flow, the nerves shut off. They're not getting their nutrients, so they just stop working. That's what neuropathy is. It's a lack of sensation, and the first sign is you get a numbness and tingling. They're starting to short circuit, so people kind of get these little, their hands don't feel very good. They're kind of tingling. Well, guess what? That's a sign of neuropathy, amongst other things, right? But in diabetics, a little neuropathy, you're starting to lose sensation because those nerves are starting to die. A big problem is a diabetic foot ulcer. So what happens is the bottom of your foot, you're walking all day, you get little micro scratches on your foot, no big deal. Whether it hurts or not, it sends a signal to your brain, hey, something's wrong. Your body's like, cool. So it sends, I don't know if it says that. It sends the troops, it goes, fixes and repairs the bottom of your foot, and everything's fine. Well, what if you get a little scratch on the bottom of your foot, but you can't feel it? And your brain and your whole body is completely unaware. Well, guess what? Every time you scratch that, it's just going to keep whittling away, and you're going to be completely unaware to get this big old ulcer, this open sore on the bottom of your foot. It's gross, it gets infected, it has pus in it, and you're completely unaware. Right? That's a huge problem when your nerves die because of lack of blood flow. Hence the trip to the eye doctor and the podiatrist for diabetics, because even if you're not taking good care of it, you got to get it checked, because if we catch this stuff early, sometimes it can be reversed, sometimes it can be treated. All of this is done from a lack of blood flow. So again, that's the theme. Diabetes is a blood flow problem. There's even something devastating, if you've heard of it. I hope you haven't, but it's called DKA, or diabetic ketoacidosis. In a nutshell, you can go into a coma if your blood sugar is too high. Your brain swells with fluid, and you go into a coma, and it's awful. All from blood sugar. Too much cakes and ice cream, right? So how is diabetes treated? Well, you can kind of get a good handle of this now that you know that it's a sugar and insulin problem. And again, this is mostly for the type 2s that we're talking about, but the principle is the same. The first is diet, and it should stop there, right? You're designed to resensitize your body to insulin and give your pancreas a freaking break, right? It's turning overtime trying to lower the blood sugar in your body. So if you deliver less sugar, hopefully it'll kick back on. It'll produce enough insulin to do what it needs to do. There's some exceptions to that, but that's what diet-based is for. Your pancreas is fine. It just needs a break. You're working it overtime. You're not paying it for it, okay? Medications. There's a lot of oral medications out there. They all work a little differently, so we're not going to go into each one. But in a nutshell, they kind of squeeze more insulin out of your pancreas. They adjust how it's released. They adjust how your body works with insulin. So it's a modulator. So taking your pancreas and just wrenching a little bit more insulin out of it. And again, some of the newer ones kind of help your body use insulin better. But either way, it's just kind of artificially trying to help out. Okay. Last resort, you inject more insulin. So that's the thing. Your pancreas isn't keeping up. Your blood sugar is still high. But now your pancreas is kind of pooping out, and your body is just super sensitized, so it needs more and more and more and more to deliver the same amount of sugar. You have no choice but to inject more insulin into your body. There's several types of insulins. There's some that last all day. There's some that are just with meals. That's kind of how your body works in general. But the overall problem with injecting insulin is it's just a Band-Aid. You're just temporizing things if you don't fix the problem and get your pancreas to work better for you and get your body to work better. Okay, so that's kind of how the treatments work. As you know, if you're already on insulin, it's not too late. People have come off insulin, they have come off medications, but only if you control the diet. You got to get your body to reacclimate and not overwork your pancreas. Give it a break, let it go on vacation by lowering what you're taking in. One quick soapbox is A1C. We talk a lot about testing. I'll talk about some people are writing in a little bit about testing ways to do that. But one is the A1C. When I ask people about A1C, I said, what's your A1C? They say, I don't know. A1C, if you learn nothing from this, okay, nothing. Always know your A1C if you're diabetic. A1C, all it is, it's a report card. It just shows you how your sugars have been doing over the past few months. Just like everything, diabetes can be better controlled if you know more about it. If you just kind of let it go and hopefully you or a deity or somebody will take care of it, that's not the case. It's on you. And so if it were on me, I'd want to know how I'm doing. So the A1C is a report card. So whenever your primary care doctor, family medicine, whoever tells you what it is, keep it, write it down. Essentially the lower the better. Your eye doctor is going to ask about it. Your podiatrist is going to ask about it. But if it's too high, get it down, right? You should be tracking it. It should always be coming down. You're going to have good days and bad days, right? I'm not sitting here telling you never eat a cookie, you never eat some cake. But get the average over about 3 months. If you can get that average below 6, you're sitting pretty good. Okay. I'm going to go over here and answer some questions. Debbie said, can neuropathy be reversed? Sure, it can. It depends on how advanced it is. I'm not as familiar with the time frame of that. If you're completely shot and you have a foot ulcer, the odds of all the sensation coming back to your foot aren't very good. But if you just have the tingling, sure. I mean, if you completely reverse the blood flow to those nerves, they can kick back on. Again, I don't know the exact figures of percentage chance that it can be reversed, but I know that it can. Linda asked about CGMs preferable to finger strip finger stick test strip. So CGM is a continuous glucose monitor. We didn't go too much into testing, but the traditional way is you prick your finger, get a little blood in the little strip. You get a little sample of the blood on the strip, and a little meter will tell you what your sugar is. It's fairly accurate. It's been around a long time. It'll tell you just what the blood sugar is. Depending on your sugar and how well you're doing, your doctor may ask you to do it once a day, once a week, 3 times a day. Especially if you're dosing insulin, you're going to be doing it, every meal, and there's a correction. Essentially, you're giving insulin to, take over for that meal you just ate. So if you ate just, a little chicken breast and some broccoli, your sugar is going to be low. You don't have to use as much insulin. If you just ate half a birthday cake, your sugars are going to be up, and you're going to have to inject yourself with a lot of insulin. So that's what that'll tell you. The CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, in general are really good because the more information we know, the better. The key to diabetes and sugar control is tight control. You don't want to just, check it once a week. You can if you're under good control, but if you're really trying hard to get the sugar down, the more points you have, the better, because you can say, oh, I really spike after dinner, or I really bottom out in the morning. And some more data points you have, the more control you have. So these continuous glucose monitors can really fine tune and check a little bit of how you're doing. They did say the CGM numbers are different from finger sticks. That part I'm not sure about. Which one's necessarily more accurate. There may be a correction factor for how that works. You'd have to work with your doctor if there's like a little correction value. I'm sure it varies by brand too. But in general, it's pretty close, but continuous will sample all throughout the day. And, there's even doctor's offices where they want that data sent in, and they'll evaluate you and yell at you peripherally to say, like, hey, last week's sugars really sucked. You need to do better, instead of finger sticks at home. Okay, so that's all I got on diabetes, everybody. Anybody else have comments? I only see a few questions. That's good. Still have a few viewers. Again, the idea here is to understand diabetes a little bit better. So if you or someone you know is diabetic, you can know what's involved and not just, oh, it's a pain in my butt checking my sugars and, I'll probably be fine because I feel fine. Even though you feel fine, that doesn't mean you're doing fine, right? So that's diabetes. There's a lot we didn't cover, testing and a little bit more on the treatment part of it. But this was just an overview of what it is, the complications and how it's treated a little bit. So I hope that was helpful. We're kind of running short on time. I don't want to take too much of your evening. Some take homes for this, just to wrap up. Diabetes is often not symptomatic until your eye starts bleeding and you can't pee. That's why diabetic eye exams and trips to your primary care doctor are important. So take it seriously. If you get on it early, you'll be good to go. You can come off your meds. Don't just ignore it. Again, don't skip the cookies and don't skip your cake, but do it in moderation, right? Eat foods. That's a tongue twister. Eat foods low in glycemic index. So the translation of that is your body can't easily convert into sugar. So things like veggies and whole grains. You can still eat stuff, just don't flood your body with sugar. We talked a little about the continuous glucose monitors, like a little thing you just pop right there. And they have apps now. It's crazy. So there's no excuse not to check your blood sugar, even if you're afraid of needles. You don't have to have this giant thing that you jab in your finger. That's not the case anymore. And that's pretty much it. Oh, we have one more coming in. Janet says, if you don't have diabetes, why else would you have neuropathy? Good question. So, this talk is related to diabetes, and it can cause neuropathy. Neuropathy basically means malfunctioning nerves, and that's what an opathy is. Tendinopathy is malfunctioning tendons. Neuropathy is malfunctioning nerves. So that could be anything. Carpal tunnel, right? If you have a compression in your wrist, you can have a neuropathy. Anywhere else in your body, that there's any problem with nerves can cause neuropathy, but neuropathy is kind of a broad term. So we're talking about diabetic neuropathy. That's why it's specific to that. Okay. Please send this to people who don't take their diabetes seriously so they understand. Tell them that they don't want to be bleeding into their eye because that involves injections into your eyes, for real. That's not always pleasant. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thank you all. Again, please share. Please like this if you liked it. If you don't like it, suggest something that's better, and I'll do something that's more likable. For next week, We got a really good response to the COVID testing. And again, I know people are, it's kind of all in your face, but a really cool study came out of Duke this past week where they tested different type of masks, right? Everyone's got their own cool mask. It's really personalized these days. You can have tie-dye or your favorite sports team where you wear N95 or N95 or KN95. So everyone's got all this stuff, but they did a test of like 15 different type of masks. So I want to share that with you. We'll go through the different type of masks, why some may be better than others. And the best parts we'll go over even if it was a good study, because that's the biggest thing these days is you see all this stuff on the internet, on CNN, on Fox News, whatever it is, and they say, oh, this study showed that, but you have to be a skeptic to the study too. Doctors and healthcare professionals are trained to vet studies, so I'll show you why it was or was not a good study and what you can take out of it. Okay? All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, on the main page here, like it, share it with all your friends and everybody, and we'll see you next week. Please stay safe. Have a good week. Thanks.